After experiencing burnout in her corporate HR career, psychologist Michelle Armitage re-evaluated her life and took a new direction into interior design. In this episode, we discover how she did it. Welcome to the HubCast, brought to you by the Interior Designers Hub, where we help and support interior designers to get trained, get into the industry, and to grow wildly successful businesses. If you want to work in the field you love, create the lifestyle you desire, and make the money you truly deserve, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Kate Hatherall. Let's get into it. I am really excited today to be able to welcome Michelle Armitage of Light & Frank Interiors to the HubCast. Welcome to HubCast, Michelle.
Thank you.
It's really great to have you here. Thank you for giving up your time for us today.
Delighted to be here.
So tell us a little bit about Light & Frank Interiors. Where are you based and what do you do?
Okay, I'm based, this is my home behind, in a tiny cottage in a village called Winterbourne, which is just north of Bristol. And I'm a sole trader. I run a small interiors business.
Amazing. And is this something that you have always done for your whole sort of adult working career, or did you kind of have a life before interior design?
Definitely had a life before interior design. I spent over 25 years in human resources.
Wow.
And lots of different aspects of human resources. I worked in all different sectors. Got to the heady heights of being the HR director for Andrew's estate agent. And I did really enjoy it until I didn't enjoy it, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And interior design then, is that something that you have always been passionate about, or is it something that you kind of became interested in later on?
Yeah, I mean, I can go back a long way actually to the first house where I was, went in my early 20s when I was standing down, ripping up carpets and sanding down floors. Certainly an avid lover of the first series of changing rooms.
Yes.
House Doctor, do you remember the House Doctor?
I do.
So yeah, I've always had an obsession with property and a love of art. And so when I started to get really tired with my career, a bit burned out, at that point I was 48 and I thought I could kind of see the end of my career, and then thought, well, now is the time. So I've always loved interiors. Just think about all the shows, Homes Under the Hammer, Grand Designs, all of them. And so I finally gave myself permission to say, it's okay, you're allowed to have a creative career. You're allowed to do something different, something for you, not the sensible option.
Amazing. And was that some kind of like a light bulb moment for you, or was it a gradual realization?
Well, that summer, so I gave up work in June, it was 2015, and I had a couple of months off and kind of did up the house, painted, I just kind of really took some time out, and I didn't want to jump straight into it. So it was a round of different possibilities. But by the September, I chatted up a lady who just opened an Annie Sloan paint shop, and then within a week was working for her part-time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Just went in, chat, and then somebody who I said, I'd love to work for you. And then the woman that was working for her handed a notice in. So she rang me up and said, you're in. So that was that.
Way.
Yeah. So that was brilliant. So it's all about upcycling and colour and amazing conversations with customers. And then that autumn, I started training a diploma in interior design with KLC.
Yes.
And that's 9 years ago now. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. And making that transition, when you were kind of obviously thinking about leaving the HR work, was it, yes, I'm definitely going to go into interior design as a career, or was it, let's see where this leads? How did it kind of happen for you?
I left the job because I was burned out and unwell, actually. So Now looking back, I know it was about the menopause. I've also got a health condition called sleep apnea, which I wasn't managing. And I'm now currently exploring being a bit neurospicy. So if you know anything about the menopause, a drop of estrogen and ADHD, or people who have different neurodiversity, there's a big effect. So there's lots going on, and I had very low energy and a lot of pain. and I was really struggling to get into work every day, put it like that. So it
Yes.
was relief to leave work. So when I left work, I had no idea what I was going to do. I remember them joking with me. I was head of HR in that business, that I was going to go and be a dog walker or something like that. So there was really no plan. And the plan, I was careful not to just jump into a first option. So I allowed myself the summer to really think about it and think about my options. I've got counselling training, so I could have gone to do counselling, also qualified executive coach, so I could have done that. So no, it wasn't it evolved with that time and that rest to think, well, what would I really love to do? What have I always really secretly wanted to do? And do I allow myself to, even now, after all this time, to say, when I introduce myself to people, say I am an interior designer, it sticks a little bit in my throat. I don't quite feel good enough to it even now. So I kind of shoo that away, but I'm still working on that. It's like very middle class. It's kind of a privileged, I see it as a privileged thing. So I have to, there's some demons there that I have to fight, but I've kind of, you get to a point where you think, well, if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? You know, so yeah.
Sure. Okay, that's really interesting. Those kind of mindset gremlins that you're kind of referring to there. I mean, that's really interesting. Can you talk to me a little bit more about, if you're happy to explore it, about that kind of class thing regarding interior design?
Well, one of the things I have done in my HR career, done some careers counselling in the University of West of England, and the stats for people in their careers are that most graduates follow their parents' career, whether that be doctor, lawyer, all the professional careers. So, and I've done graduate recruitment as well. So I'm going to answer your question in a roundabout way. So most graduates will follow their parents, and it's not just because they're just doing what they're told. It's because there's a lot of help in that. There's a lot of guidance. And yes. I think the thing about being, I've got a lovely family. They're very intelligent, but from a small town, there aren't any big employers. There's not a lot of opportunity.
Yep.
So intelligent people do fairly ordinary jobs because there isn't that option. So I think that there were two things at play. One was that I didn't know any interior designers.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was the kind of thing you saw on the telly. And the other was I was encouraged to do a practical job where I would earn a good living and do my educational wrong. And I did a bit. I did a psychology degree, and I know a few raised eyebrows at that, but I really wanted to know about psychology. So, but then I did a postgraduate in personnel management.
Right.
Yeah. So there are kind of two things at play. One, no role models, and the other, be sensible, get a good job. So it felt very beyond me for a long time, I would say. Yeah.
And did interior design as a career, as an industry, feel to you that was something that was not for someone like me?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'm loud. I'm a bit irreverent. I'm very clearly a certain kind of personality. What I like is pretty out there. Even now, actually, I think, if you want a biophilia, lots of natural materials and various shades of green and a minimalist interior, I am clearly not the interior designer for you. So the kind of people who, engage with me I didn't really know those customers were there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, your style is more kind of eclectic. It's more gathered over time. It's got that sort of and quite laid back vibe about it as well.
And so it's like colourful and rustic.
And that's a very valid. That's a very valid design style and a very valid niche in the market. So it's interesting that you would think that there isn't a market for you there.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know it existed. I moved into this cottage, so part of the change, I had to sell my house because I couldn't afford the mortgage. And this house, although it's absolutely beautiful, got enormous gardens, was a lot cheaper because it was on the outskirts of the city. So, and then the house and I have kind of collaborated together. So certainly on that journey of career change, home change, I've developed my style. And I would say as well, for anyone listening, wondering about it, as a designer, you don't go into people's houses, do you, and put in your style. You go in and help them understand what their style is and do something for them. So I wouldn't be the person that would do a New York loft. No one would come to me. But the range of styles that I can help people with is quite diverse. And I don't think I've ever done actually anything that I would have for me. I've done a lot of green, for example. I've got no green in my own house. It seems to me that everyone I work with loves green. So here we go again. So you have to be able to understand your own style and separate it out when you're working with a client, I found. Yeah.
And I think that understanding of being able to tune in to your client and being able to understand what it is that makes them tick and what lights them up is, you know, a real strength and skill of being an interior designer. Do you feel that kind of your psychology background, your HR background have kind of enabled you to have some of those skills that have helped you become a better interior designer?
Yeah, I think my unique approach is that I'm a person first. So I care about the person getting what they need above the design. And that's maybe why it's a bit more eclectic and layered, because the reality for most people is you can't just rip everything out and start again. And if you care about the planet, you don't want to. So you work around the family, and it's complex because there's always more than one personality in a family. And you work around their budget constraints and their lifestyle constraints. So yeah, I absolutely right. The consultancy skills and the knowledge of people and their individual differences is a huge benefit. And when I started studying, it's the bit that was missing. So I found the course. I mean, the course I did was really good, but it's very visually based.
Yes.
And I now know there's a lot more to design, sensory design, and there's a lot more going on for an individual. I'll give you one example. Last year, I worked with a lady. She had a lot of heirlooms. And for her, she really, really cared about keeping the heirlooms. So some compromises had to be made with layout to accommodate these enormous sofas. Now, somebody who's just looking at the design would say, we've got to get rid of one of these sofas. But that client didn't want to. So therefore, I started at that place. She didn't want to. So what's the best we can do? And we changed it from that perspective. And she was really happy with that because that's what she wanted.
Amazing. And that's, you know, that understanding of what is beyond the visual is really important to you. And in fact, so important that you wrote a book about this recently.
I did.
Tell us about your book, Michelle. Give your book a little plug.
So I wrote a book. Oh, look, normally I have them on my bookshelf behind me, but I haven't got any there. So I wrote a book. Your Design Personality at Home. So yeah, so I wrote the book I was looking for when I started to look at is there a field called design psychology? I know now that's more to do with UX experience, so we won't go into names and labels, but essentially, how does an individual respond to their environment? So in terms of architecture, interior architecture and design and styling, what's going on? What colour palettes do people like? What's happening with audio? What's happening with sentimental items? You know, all these things. And there really wasn't a lot there. So I did a lot of research. I started doing talks about it, and then a friend challenged me and said, "I thought you were going to write a book on this."
Oh, I love friends like that.
And I thought, oh yeah, you're right, it was. And actually, in 2020, most people talk about how that year changed them. This is really weird. This is so weird. In March 2020, I took on a part-time HR job, an interim job, so that I could focus on writing a book. And then I got furloughed from that job.
Wow.
So I wrote the first draft in furlough.
Wow.
So I had planned to write a book in 2020, and the pandemic made it easier.
Amazing. Talk about all of the stars aligning for you.
Oh, well, I don't know about it. Was quite a struggle. It took me 3 years to get it how I wanted it, and probably about 9 drafts and lots of feedback because I'd never written a book before. And I've self-published it, so I retained the IP, and I didn't want a publisher interfering with the idea and the concept. But what I've produced, hopefully, is a book that doesn't look like a self-published book. It's not a pamphlet, it's a proper book. Yeah. And it's a for people to know, so that's a bit waffly. It's a step-by-step guide. So it's written for the person with no confidence in interiors. But I've found that actually a lot of designers really like it too, because it helps them understand their clients and their own instincts for design better. So it's been interesting, the feedback.
Absolutely. And it's I mean, I've read it. It's a really good read. It's a very practical kind of hands-on exploration of what you love about what any of us love about interiors. So that transition then from HR into interior design, how was that for you? Like, do you Did you have fears and worries about whether you were able to do it?
Oh, this is quite funny. So I got a really good opportunity. I got two good opportunities that came quite quickly, and I just did them. And I remember a friend saying to me, I don't know where you get your confidence from. I was doing a shop fit out. And quite often, I know about design, you won't always get the answer straight away. It takes me a while sometimes, and so I try not to do things with too tight deadlines. So yeah, I kind of I guess I've always had like a playful attitude to it. It's not brain surgery, is it? I've got quite a lot of practical skills. I've got plenty of life skills. So every challenge that came up, I would just deal with it as it happened and just assume I could do it. And so far, so good. I've got a great example actually, where previous skills help. A carpet company fitted a marmoleum floor in this kitchen, and it was a pretty high-end kitchen, and it was the final piece. But as you'll know, with marmoleum, there aren't many fitters. It's a very specialist thing, and I know a lot more about marmoleum now than I did when I spec the floor. And they'd done a bad job. The fitter had nicked it, and there were a few issues. So that was a tricky situation to manage. And I said to the homeowner, when the carpet guy came around, I said, look, please don't say anything. Let me handle it. I knew he'd undermine it. And they were very easygoing clients. So they were going to cave, and I didn't want them to.
Yes.
So I just thought about what's the best way to handle it. And I knew if I said this needs to be taken up and done again, I'd have a lot of resistance. So I didn't do that. I just took him around the room and showed him all the floors. And within 5 minutes, he said, this needs to be taken up and done again. And I said, oh, okay, well, if that's what you think, you're the expert. And that's years of experience of knowing not to wind somebody up or tell them their job. Just, and my client said, I have never seen anybody roll over and do your bidding so quickly.
Amazing. I love that.
And that was showing respect to that company. And I still work with them now because they handled it really well. They had to take a hit financially on that one, but those customers have used them again and again, and they've got a big house. So, it's being respectful. So I've forgotten your question. Okay, but that was a good example of other skills coming in,
Yeah, definitely. And that transfer of skills, as you say, from kind of your previous life into this one. And I think, so much of what we do as interior designers is actually about people management as opposed to the design, understanding the relationships between people and how to communicate and how to get the best out of people, really.
Yeah, and helping clients understand trades, so for example, as they always pay them straight away, don't mess them about, understand the difference. And if I think a lot of trades lie about their availability because they don't feel understood by clients. Just trying to get that feeling of transparency and say, look, if you have to go off and do another job, let's just be straight about it and I'll explain that, rather than kind of maneuver around it. I have to say now, I don't do so much of that kind of full project management. I'd rather just work with the design and the client up front, because I would say, although I can do it, it's not my favourite thing to do. So, yeah, some people are really great at it and they do the whole thing and they have their own teams. But yeah, I haven't gone that way.
Yeah, there's knowing your strengths, isn't it? Playing to them and doing the bits that you want to do as well. And that's part of the beauty of running your own business as well.
It is, and at this point in life, I can do what I want to do. I made it like that. So many years of doing what I had to do, and think, well, you don't have to do that. So I'll go, and it's interesting when you start saying no to things you don't want to do. More of what I'm going to get my grammar right. What you do want to do pops up, which is interesting, isn't it? So.
Absolutely. Yeah. So kind of looking back on this journey that you've been on, your career in HR, the psychology training that you've done, and then that really major switch across into something really quite different. Mm-hmm. Looking back on it, do you wish that you'd made the switch earlier? And are there any lessons that you would go back and give to your younger self?
I'm quite a headstrong person, so I don't think my younger self would be very interested. That's one thing I'd say there. And I think the only things I would change about my life are my attitude to my physical health. So those are my only regrets, really. Not. I knew I had sleep apnea in my early 30s. yeah, and I didn't manage it well. I tried to, and then kind of gave up. And then when then menopause came, that had massive impacts. And again, menopause, when I went to the doctors, I let them fob me off. I mean, it's 10 years ago, so it was different. I mean, it's so much better now.
Yep.
So I would say most of my regrets and my advice would be around physical health, which I've neglected. I really enjoyed a HR career, and I haven't totally given it up. I still do bits and pieces with it, and sometimes I do workplace design with businesses. But I absolutely combine my design skills with HR. And actually, I don't think I've told you this. The reason I chose design, was when the company I was working for, my last kind of permanent role. 2 days a week, I was on a project when we were designing a second phase. So I worked with an interior design team, and we did all the consultation with staff over what it's going to look like and the layouts and what was important to them, and trying to create an environment that would foster a culture of innovation for a research and development engineering business. It was really brilliant, really fascinating. And I realized I was enjoying that a lot more than I was enjoying my HR day-to-day role. So I'd forgotten that piece. Yeah, so I had a bit of an insight into what design was all about, not just color palettes, the depth of understanding when you're designing from scratch. So would I've liked to have done it earlier? Probably, but not. But I wouldn't. I maybe 5 or 10 years earlier, but no more than that. So it would be nice to have been in this a bit longer. I do work with designers who are really, really steeped in understanding it, and they did art at college. So, if you could run 3 or 4 parallel lives together.
How nice would that be?
I'd do textiles, because I'm always really in awe of people who have that textiles knowledge. Yeah, and I'd probably do something to do with the environment as well, environmental science, and really understand that. So, yeah.
One lifetime is not enough.
No, it isn't. Yeah. I have Hermione Granger's little thing, like the time traveling thing from Harry Potter, and just run all these things all together. Yeah.
I love it. Love that. Oh, brilliant. Oh, Michelle, thank you so much for sharing your journey of how you got to where you are today. And, I know that it will be inspiring for other people as well, because, for some people, it feels like that change is just something that's not possible for them. But we all have barriers that we have to face and mountains that we have to climb, whether it's mindset things or practical things. But it's really lovely to hear another story of how it can be done.
One of the things as well, I think, Kate, that's really interesting is, because I do know a lot of interior designers now, and nobody does it the same way. You'll find that in your community. Everyone finds their niche within it. So that's a good way to start thinking, well, what is it that I do naturally already, and what kind of interior designer would I be? And you can do it at the low ticket, low price element, right the way through to, high end stuff. So there's a whole lot available when you start looking at it.
Amazing. Thank you. Before you go, Michelle, would you be happy to play a game of designer this or that?
Yes, I would.
Amazing. Alrighty. I'm going to put a minute on the clock, and now there's no cheating here. There's no both or neither. It's one or the other. Okay.
It's all right. I'm very decisive. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
That's good to hear. All right. Let's go. New or recycled?
Recycled.
Leather or vegan?
Leather.
Brand paints or colour matched?
Oh, brand paint.
Faux plants or real plants?
Real plants.
Plumping cushions or karate chopping cushions?
Oh, plumping cushions.
Linen or velvet?
Linen.
Glam or rustic?
Rustic.
Obviously. Art deco or pop art?
Art deco.
Changing rooms or interior design masters?
Interior design masters.
Floral or stripes?
Floral.
Symmetrical or asymmetrical?
Asymmetrical.
Carpet or hard flooring?
Hard floor.
Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen or Kelly Hoppen?
Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen.
Mural or decal?
Mural.
Ceiling fan or air conditioning?
Ceiling fan.
Coffee table. Oh, we're out of time. Amazing. Michelle, thank you so much for playing designer this or that.
That's all right.
Amazing.
So the only one actually, which you thought was obvious, was rustic or glamorous. I do quite like glamorous too. So that I put a little bit of glamour in, but rustic wins every time.
Amazing. Brilliant. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us on the HubCast today. It's been really interesting to hear your story, and we wish you all the best for the future.
Oh, thank you, Kate. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for tuning into HubCast by the Interior Designers Hub. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please take a screenshot and share it to Facebook, Instagram, or your favourite social media channel. Make sure to tag me in at Interior Designers Hub and let me know what you enjoyed about this episode. I reply to each and every comment. I'd also like to offer you an incredible free gift, which is going to show you the exact roadmap that you need to take to become a wildly successful interior designer. It shares our secrets to business success. If you'd like to get your hands on that, head on over to interiordesignershub.co.uk/roadmap right now. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.